All right, let's dive into one of the most fascinating and, let's be honest, controversial topics out there: astrology. We're going to break down the system, look at the science, and try to understand its incredible staying power. You know that feeling, right? You're scanning your daily horoscope, and suddenly a line just jumps out. It feels so personal, so weirdly accurate. That little moment of connection is exactly what we're talking about today. But what is really going on behind the scenes? Okay, so to really get astrology, you have to look way beyond that little paragraph in the newspaper. There's this incredibly complex and ancient system working underneath it all. It's so much more than just your sun sign. At its heart, astrology is basically a symbolic language. The core idea is that the very moment you were born, the planets and stars were in a unique alignment. It's like the universe took a snapshot, a kind of celestial map that might just offer some clues about who you are. So this system has three main building blocks. The first one is probably the one you know best, the 12 zodiac signs. They're grouped into four elements. You've got your fire, earth, air, and water signs, and each one is said to represent a different kind of core energy. Next up, we have the planets. Now, in astrology, think of the planets, and yeah, that includes the sun and moon, as the actors on a stage. Each one represents a different part of our personality: our drive, our emotions, our ambition, the whole shebang. And finally, there are the houses. Just imagine the sky at the moment of your birth, sliced up into 12 sections, kind of like a pizza. Each one of those slices is a house, and each house represents a different area of your life, from your identity to your career to your relationships. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it all starts to click together. The planets answer the question of what. They represent the what, the specific energy. So you have Mercury, which is what you think and say, or Mars, which is what makes you take action. And the houses? They tell you where that energy is showing up in your life. So let's say your fiery, action-oriented Mars is hanging out in your 10th house of career. An astrologer might say, well, you're probably super ambitious and driven at work. It's this unique combination of signs, planets, and houses that creates a birth chart, which is way, way more detailed than just being a Libra or a Scorpio. So you have this rich, symbolic system that's been around for ages. But of course, eventually, it ran headfirst into a new way of seeing the world, the scientific method. And that's where things really start to get interesting. You know, for most of human history, astronomy and astrology were basically the same thing. People studied the stars to navigate the seas and to get a glimpse of the divine. But then the scientific revolution kicked off and their paths forked, like dramatically. Astronomy became the science of what the stars are, giant balls of hot gas, while astrology stuck with what the stars mean. And this really gets to the heart of it. Astronomy uses the scientific method to understand the physical universe. It makes predictions we can actually test, like when the next solar eclipse will be. Astrology, on the other hand, uses interpretation and symbolism to find meaning. It's just operating in a completely different ballpark. The great astronomer Carl Sagan he hit the nail on the head with this one. Are we looking at physics and chemistry on a cosmic scale, or are we looking for a mirror that reflects our own hopes, fears, and stories? It's a powerful question. So, that brings us to the big one, the crucial question. When you take this ancient system of meaning and you put it under the microscope of modern science, what happens? Well, the scientific verdict is pretty unanimous. Astrology is considered a pseudoscience. In study after study, astrologers can't match birth charts to personality profiles any better than you could by just guessing. There's no known force or mechanism that could make it work. I mean, get this. The gravitational pull of the doctor delivering a baby is way stronger than the pull from the planet Mars. For astrology to be real in a physical sense, our whole understanding of physics would have to be thrown out the window. And that creates this huge paradox, right? If there's no solid scientific evidence for it, why is astrology more popular now than ever? Well, it turns out the answer isn't in the stars, it's in our heads. So let's go back to that feeling we started with, that very real sense that your horoscope is speaking directly to you. Psychology actually has some really compelling explanations for why that happens. Everybody meet the Forer effect. It's also called the Barnum effect, named after the famous circus showman P.T. Barnum, who said his shows had a little something for everybody. And that's exactly what this is. It's our brain's amazing ability to take a vague, general statement and believe it's a unique description of us. So check out this classic experiment from 1948. A psychologist named Bertram Forer gave his students a personality test. He told them he'd give them each a unique analysis based on their answers. But here's the twist. He gave every single student the exact same paragraph, which he just copied from a bunch of horoscopes. The result? On average, the students rated their unique analysis as 85% accurate. They were totally sold. This right here is a perfect Barnum statement. I mean, read that. Does that sound like you? Yeah, of course it does, because it sounds like pretty much every human being on the planet. Horoscopes are often full of these kinds of statements, so universal that they feel personal to anyone who reads them. And the Forer effect has a partner in crime, confirmation bias. This is our natural tendency to hunt for information that proves what we already believe. So if your horoscope says you're going to have a good day at work and one good thing happens, you remember it. It's a hit. But if it's a terrible day, you just forget the prediction. We're wired to remember the hits and ignore the misses, which makes the belief feel stronger over time. Okay, so it might not be scientific, and yes, our brains are kind of playing tricks on us, but even that doesn't quite capture the whole picture, because astrology's deep, lasting appeal, it speaks to something much more fundamental about being human. Think about it. In a world that often feels random and chaotic, astrology can offer a sense of order and predictability. It gives us a language and a framework to try and understand ourselves better, and it can even create a sense of community, connecting us with others who share our sign. It seems to survive because it's serving these really deep human needs. And this kind of leaves us with one last big thought to chew on. Science might look at the stars and see physics and gravity, but for centuries, people have looked at those same stars and found comfort, guidance, and a connection to something bigger than themselves. So the question becomes, if something helps us find meaning in our lives, even if it isn't science, does that mean it has no value? What do you think?